What's up guys, this is Karos and today we're going to take a quick look at the Demonology Warlock of the Warlords of Draenor beta. Keep in mind that this is a beta and therefore everything is subject to change. So yeah, this video is not going to be very up to date when Warlords of Draenor is going to be released, so keep that in mind. And yeah, this is going to be about the Demonology Warlock. I have already made a feedback video towards the Affliction Warlock if you want to see that, because honestly this is more interesting. So yeah, the footage you're going to see is taken from the LFR high mall testing, which has been the high mall rate has been opened the previous weekend, I believe. So yeah, I actually frapped it on Saturday, and yeah, just for your information, it's not taken from the heroic raid testing or the mythic raid testing, it's just from the LFR. Yeah, why the Demonology Warlock? Because Demonology Warlock is my favorite spec and therefore I'm going to do it in this order. Affliction first because it's the spec that needs the most feedback. Demonology second because I have played the Demonology Warlock the most in the Warlords of Draenor beta, and in a week or so I'm going to talk about the Destruction Warlock, which is not going to be a long video either, and I'm also trying to keep this video as short as possible too, because Demonology hasn't been changed much. Okay, let's just jump right in there. Demonology hasn't been changed much. It did get a lot of abilities, or not a lot, but it did get some talents, and some abilities have been pruned, but it definitely isn't that much. It doesn't impact the game style that much. When talking about the ability pruning, I'm going to talk about Flame and Carrion Swarm, because I have talked about the other pruned abilities in the Affliction Warlock feedback video, so if you want to watch that, click on the link in the description. The removal of Flame is pretty much not going to do much to the Demonology Warlock, because you probably want to jump right into Metamorphosis and spam the shit out of Touch of Chaos when it comes to movement, and therefore you don't need Flame that much. You have Hand of Gul'dan to cast while moving. You have to you can recast Corruption on your targets, and you can spam Touch of Chaos, which actually does decent damage, so you don't lose much. You don't lose much when you spam Touch of Chaos instead of Soulfire, as you are now doing, because in Mist of Pandaria or in Siege of Orgrimmar it has been a lot of DPS to spend Soulfire doing Metamorphosis or doing cooldowns, which is not going to be that good anymore, at least with the haste you have right now. And also Carrion Swarm is gonna get pruned, which I'm actually going to miss that ability, because it definitely supported our AoE, and yeah, we're going to miss it. And also we're going to miss it for PvP, although this is not going to be much about PvP, but yeah, it's going to be missed. But yeah, it's not that much of an important ability. I'm going to miss it, but it's not like the Armageddon or something like that for this spec. Let's talk about the playstyle a bit. The playstyle kind of stays the same. It doesn't change much. You want to keep up your dots. Snapshotting is going to go out of the game, and therefore you don't really have to watch about your dots anymore. You want to keep them up all the time. And yeah, the spec really focuses around Fury, the demonic Fury you have, and spending it at the right times, which it actually does right now. You want to use your Metamorphosis at the right times with your cooldowns, and for movement in Warlords of Draenor is going to be pretty important, and therefore you want to manage your Fury correctly. That's what the Demonology spec is going to be about. The talents will have a small impact as it is right now. I'm going to talk about that later, but talents are going to change the spec a bit. But actually the playstyle itself stays the same, and therefore, yeah, there's not much to talk about. Okay, now talking about the talents, there's going to be there's going to be 4 new talents. The first one I want to talk about is the Grimoire of Synergy. It replaces Grimoire of Sacrifice, because Grimoire of Sacrifice wasn't really a good talent for the Demonology Warlock, because it sacrifices your demon, and Demonology actually is shit without a demon, because your demons are very important for Demonology Warlocks, just to keep it like that. It's It's a pretty important thing, and therefore you didn't ever use Grimoire of Sacrifice. You did use Supremacy lately in Siege of Orgrimmar, and you actually did use Grimoire of Service a lot of times because you actually that's a lot of actually in that sentence. Because you were able to line it up with the Dark Soul and your other cooldowns, and therefore it got a bit stronger. But anyways, and Sacrifice has never been used when your demon managed to survive in the fight, and therefore it was kind of useless. And Grimoire of Synergy actually has a small impact on your playstyle, because I think it's quite an important, not an important, but it's quite an interesting talent. Grimoire of Synergy either gives you 10% more damage or gives your pet 10% more damage, so it's kind of a buff for 10 seconds, I believe. I can't really look it up right now because the servers are down. What I think about it, what I think about Grimoire of Synergy, it may change our playstyle, because you will probably try to use your Molten Core stacks with your buff of Grimoire of Synergy, because your of course your Soulfire is stronger than Shadowbolt, but it's not as strong as it's not strong enough to use it in Metamorphosis, and yeah, therefore you're pretty much going to use it with your 10% damage buff, and maybe that's going to happen, maybe it's not going to happen, because the Soulfire is going to get nerfed or something like that, but right now it looks like you're going to use it like that, and yeah, that's what I'm going to try. The other talent I want to talk about, or the next talent I want to talk about, is Doombolt. Doombolt is quite a hard-hitting ability for Demonology Warlock, and it replaces, or it gets replaced by Soulburn Haunt or Charred Remains for the other specs, and for Demonology it's Doombolt. And Doombolt works like the following. Every Doombolt you cast is going to give you a stack of a debuff, which actually raises the cost and damage of your next Doombolt spell. So it's going to cost more, but it's also going to deal more damage. And yeah, you're going to have to figure out what number of stacks is going to be the most useful for dealing damage or so. At least that's what I think is intended by Blizzard. But right now it's kind of useless because it's not doing that much damage, but the number tweaking hasn't been done yet, and therefore let's watch out for it. The next talent I want to talk about is Cataclysm. Cataclysm is the go-to talent right now because it's a very hard-hitting ability, and if you are in Metamorphosis while casting it, it also applies Doom to everything. And yeah, you basically save yourself a global cooldown and some fury when you use it on a boss, and it's also a very hard-hitting ability. And yeah, if you use it with all your cooldowns up and get a good Doom up, it's going to push your damage through the roof. I don't really know if that ability is going to be used this way, if it's going to be used in single target encounters, but it's a very good ability for 2, 3, 4, 5 targets if they live long enough. And it also is very good for small AoE scenarios, because if you're not in Metamorphosis but in caster form, it also applies Corruption. And yeah, that's going to be the first ability the Demonology Warlock has to apply his dot to everything, like Soulburn Seed of Corruption or the Fire and Brimstone Immolate for the other specs. It's going to be the first ability for Demonology Warlocks to spread the dots. And another talent, or the last talent I'm going to talk about, is Demonic Servitude. Servitude, as I said in the Affliction Warlock feedback video, is useless right now. It's practically useless, especially for Demonology Warlocks, because your Felguard is actually dealing way more damage than the Perma Doom Guard you get while speccing into Demonic Servitude. So yeah, a real competitive Warlock will never spec into that talent, other than for the abilities your pet gets, like the slow for the Doom Guard is pretty much going to be useful in like some sort of encounters or PvP, maybe, but I do not see me playing with this talent. Right now I'm kinda satisfied with the Demonology spec. I'm glad they didn't change that much, because Demonology has always been the most fun spec of the Warlock arsenal. And yeah, if they don't change it that much, and if it stays as strong as it is right now, because it's actually topping the meters along with the Warriors and some sorts of DKs, and yeah, it's actually topping the meters along with other classes right now, but it's a very good spec. Yeah, I'm going to play it. People are going to like playing it if they like the spec. There is actually a lot of people that like the spec. yeah, I hope the Demonology Warlock stays as it is right now. It's a very interesting spec. It has always been a very interesting spec since Mists of Pandaria. And yeah, Blizzard, please don't change much. Just give them a good talent, replace Servitude with something. I also hope that Demonology Warlocks are going to top the meters for at least for the for the Warlock specs, because I really like playing that spec. Yeah, that's it. That's a small feedback. I'm very satisfied with what this Warlock spec is like right now. And yeah,